The collaboration was really amazing. One time I just came into YOWIE and we started talking about design. We started with a concept that I had made for a coffee table, and then went through like colors and different sort of finishes and stuff. And from there we ended up with the final result, and it's been super amazing. Definitely like a really great learning process, especially to be like in a space with all like these super amazing designers and artists as well.
One of the artists at the workshop is called Shannon, Creative Works. I do critic, watercolors, I like doing celebrities, stuff like that. I watch Laverne Shirley in the TV show, and that is Carmen Racusa.
We had probably about 20 different people who had hands on this table. We made something like 72 different designs. Our team got to really see the development of this hotel and see how all these different designers could be brought into not only the space, but how we all should be thinking differently about who makes things, where they're made, etc., and how that simple coffee table can be an opportunity to build rich skills, to build team. In this case with Shannon, through her mentorship of the team, be exposed to entrepreneurship and how do you make decisions about like design and value and things like that. So we are truly grateful to have been a part of this project and so proud of having something here.
I really envy like bands because I feel like they're always working in collaboration, and when I think about my art practice, it's usually just me from start to finish, like creating the work, firing the work, and coming up with the ideas and everything. It was really nice to have somebody else kind of guiding the idea and the process for the work. Usually I wouldn't do just like a solid color. Shannon knows what she's doing, and it felt good to, you know, just like put that trust in somebody else.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to build the business of your dreams? Hi, I'm Shannon Maldonado, the founder and creative director of YOWIE, a gift shop and boutique hotel in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. When I started out back in 2017, I had so many questions and no idea where to look for answers. That's where the idea for this show came from. I wanted to help unpack the day-to-day realities of running a small business, and I desperately needed to be inspired and encouraged to keep going when things got tough. Along the way, I'll share some pieces of my own journey as my shop YOWIE grows from an online store to a 13-suite boutique hotel, gift shop, and cafe. So let's go. This is Small Enough. So last night was the artist preview. It was nothing short of magical, seeing these people see their stuff in the space for the first time, stuff that came from a rendering to a finished product. It was so exciting, and seeing them connecting and really reminding us how the entire project is about collaboration. So I'm in West Philly to talk about collaboration with a few friends. Let's head inside to Tiny WPA. We are in West Philly this morning with two friends, Gilliam and Renee Schacht, co-founders of Tiny WPA. Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful space this morning. I'm gonna try not to get distracted by the woman painting behind us, these beautiful sculptures, but thank you for having us. We're super excited to chat about collaboration today.
Grateful to have you here.
Of course. How has your mission and goal evolved since you founded this space in 2012? Is this your original space that we're sitting in? Okay, or how has the whole thing evolved since 2012?
We moved into this space in January of 2016.
Okay.
I think I was the only full-time employee at the time, and everyone else was like independent contractors. Mm-hmm. We are now up to 9 full-time employees. And we've outgrown the space. Yeah. We're now needing 10,000 square feet, so we're looking.
This summer we surged to almost 20 people.
Wow.
But our mission and objectives and goals, that hasn't changed.
Gotcha.
I think we're just able to offer more workforce development, which is always what we've wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Tiny WPA didn't really start until 2015. Like public workshops started in 2009 and then kept rolling, but it wasn't until, you know, Tiny WPA was really created that we were able to fully start focusing on Philadelphia, and even then it took us really till 2019 to have the funding and the momentum to really have dedicated staff to focusing on Philadelphia. And it just, for all the issues that I think we are mutually interested in. As much as it's great to go to work in Detroit and to go visit Taipei and do a project in Taipei or Canada or, Chattanooga and see those projects have impact, to really move the needle on some of the issues that we're talking about, you have to be in one place and you have to leverage every single, favor and friendship. I think you also have to live with your, you have to be able to live with your failures too. And, no matter how good you are, things are going to go wrong at times. And how do you learn from that, right?
Yeah.
All the time.
Constantly,
yeah. So, this is one of the best places to get smarter
definitely
about this work, because there's space to do stuff where you don't always need permission. As long as your collaborators, your clients are like, yeah, let's go for it. There's stuff that you can do that you couldn't get away with in New York City.
For us at YOWIE, since day one, our brand is really built on collaboration and relationships. I feel like that's also a big part of what you do here at Tiny WPA, and it's a mix of collaboration with the neighborhoods based on some of these things that you're bringing into spaces, and then obviously collaboration with your amazing team, the building heroes that you train every season. I would love to hear why collaboration is so important to what you do.
Everything you see in this space, at least 7 people have had hands on it.
That's
and
cool.
Generally it's in the double and sometimes triple digits, and for us, the projects that don't have that are miserable. The ones, that have this deep level of collaboration are the ones that are of the greatest joy. I think we're super comfortable at Tiny WPA with being what we call strong and wrong, and having, these, being able to sort of listen and toss out ideas, but then to be open enough and comfortable enough to have a better idea come from a 7-year-old or a 72-year-old and someone to tell us we're wrong.
Yeah.
And let's figure out something better. I
know a lot of your projects are through the city, maybe through grants. And then I know in my experience, sometimes that can have a lot of rules or they're trying to really set up, this is what we want. They're saying it's open to interpretation, but there's a lot of things you have to get around.
Yeah.
So just curious of what that process maybe feels like, and if there's ever been hurdles or hiccups to delivering something based on maybe a specific RFQ or RFP or something.
Yeah, we're working on developing a new bench for Philadelphia, right?
Like a park bench?
Park bench. Yeah, cool. And it's it's a net
permanent park bench.
We don't have enough places to sit in the city, and I tell people that all the time. And I don't drive, so I'm constantly walking around and trying to multitask.
Absolutely, and the seating that is provided is really all about sitting very tightly in a row like this, right?
Which is not how people talk to each other, interact.
No, it's a very different conversation. Oh, the weather's great today. That's very different than looking into someone's eyes. There's some, directional seating where you and I might face one another, but that's very rare. That's usually around a picnic table. And we really deeply believe that from a use standpoint to honestly a healing standpoint, having more types of seating that let people look each other in the eyes and feel close, creating what we call sort of hug spaces.
Connect, yeah.
And create the flexibility for all different types of...
That's fair, yeah.
There's that flip point where, as you said, you create this platform for people to have more social spaces, to have something that can be theirs that pushes back against, almost by necessity, a uniform approach to every single space in the city. Well, all of a sudden, 9 times out of 10, these magical things happen. Asking them to be a part of this process, of course they want to be a part of that process.
Totally.
It's
I think there are too many assumptions being made about different groups of people and how involved they want to be in their community. I think that's the beginning of all of what you're doing.
Exactly.
And then going past those assumptions and engaging them. They're surprised that you're asking them, and then the neighborhood is surprised that they want to be involved. That's what I've seen, even in our neighborhood of South Street, how many people are like, oh, thanks for asking me, when we were sharing our project under construction, they're like, oh, thanks for telling me what you're doing, because they're not used to people sharing information with them. Right. And then it became, do you need anything? Can we help? Like,
it's that moment of trust, right? Like you
definitely. There's so much trust building, I think. That's a great point in what you do, especially going into communities that you're not a part of.
We never go into a community that's not our own and say, like, who wants to help build something? We're always partnering and collaborating
with the community group.
With the community group.
That's great. Yeah.
And we live in this weird state in Philadelphia, being that, you know, underfunded, massive city where there are a lot of rules that say you can't do stuff, and people are doing stuff on the low, you know, the lowdown anyway. But how do we kind of find that balance to really legitimize what they're doing and build momentum around that?
I would love to hear about the stools that we're sitting on. I think this is a project you started during lockdowns, or stools and desks. Okay, tell me more about this. I want to hear.
So that stool is a prototype.
I'm trying not to rock too, because it's very comfortable to rock on this.
Well, that was the point.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the whole point of this.
It feels great. It feels great.
If you have to sit behind a computer for 8 hours a day as a kid.
Yeah.
Some kids are a little fidgety, so they need something to...
Oh, that's so clever.
So that's why we made that. And it's made from down trees from Fairmount Park.
Wow.
So that is our extra special bench. How we came about this project is that obviously students were working from home and we were hearing a need, but I do remember one particular student who we were working with who came in, who lives around the corner, and I was like, hey, India, where are you working? Kind of jokingly, like, where are you doing your homeschool?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm in, and I think I said like, oh, we're in your kitchen? And she's like, no, my mom has the kitchen. And then I'm like, well, where are you? And she's like, well, my sisters and so are on the sofa, and I'm on, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. So we started asking around, and we kept hearing a need for desks and stools, because where are these kids working? They can't be working on a sofa for an entire year. So we put out a survey to figure out, like, is this a need? Should we be really responding to it? And immediately the survey became like a wish list. People, I mean, hundreds of people signed up,
so
and we were
cool.
like, hold on a second. Like, we were just trying to assess need. We weren't like saying that we can do this, but given the need.
They're pre-ordering the desks, they're putting down payment on the desks.
100%. Yeah.
But no, they were all free.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
All free.
We're just saying, they're like, okay, I'm ready to press.
I need 5.
Yeah,
I need
amazing.
4.
Wow.
And then we realized, like, kids are different heights. Like, you might have a high school student, you might have an elementary. So we were like, okay, what kind of heights do you need?
Yep.
But again, hundreds of people kept like submitting, and we're like, okay, we have to act.
Yeah.
So then we started fundraising. We were able to hire more people.
So cool.
So it became a production company. We made over 800 plus desks and stools.
Oh my God.
858.
That we personally distributed to families in need throughout the city.
That's so cool.
So the space that you're sitting in now would just be like, we would
wall-to-wall desks, stacks.
Small little place to like
Canyons to walk through.
Yeah.
all the way to the ceiling. And when we
so
couldn't build
cool.
anymore, we were like, okay, the U-Haul has to come around.
Yeah.
We got to deliver them, and then we would start over. And we did that for 6 months straight.
Wow. What an amazing thing to provide to people. That's so cool.
We knew this might be an issue before the pandemic because, you know, we're really about supporting what our building heroes and what people who come into the workshop need. And you know, to answer an earlier question about like how the organization's evolved, it really is driven by need. So we hear a dominant need and all right, let's respond to it.
Figure out how we can do that.
So we did know that, you know, Philly row homes are pretty unique in their size, and that IKEA and some other spaces were not really offering a good solution for people to have desks at home.
Totally.
They're either too big, or they were, you know, you could not get them home easily in a cab or in public transit, right?
Interesting.
And so we had sort of been tinkering around a little bit with it, but the pandemic really just accelerated that, and then it really became a really interesting design problem about what is the smallest desk you can make, being able to have optimized storage, you know, both on the desk, and then the storage stool that Renee is sitting on, that little shelf was very intentional.
So you can put your stuff there.
So it's like, what's the biggest, smallest thing you can create? Was a really great design challenge, and you know, it was a much more hybrid design process than we would normally do, because it would normally be all with families and we'd be rapid prototyping in person. So one of our favorite ways of designing that's very different collaboration-wise is we don't draw, right? We prototype at full scale.
Whoa, okay.
We don't work in models because
feel like something gets lost when you're working in a model versus working to full scale?
Everyone
How
makes
did you
better.
work with cardboard first? How are you doing that?
A lot of times just wood.
Just wood? Wow.
It was a mix of cardboard
Wow.
and wood. But
Okay.
yeah, I think everyone makes, including designers, makes better decisions when things are real.
So you can see the scale.
For sure, definitely. It
and
definitely
usage
helps.
and like, okay, is this too hard? Is this wide enough? Is this too tall, too short? And you just don't have answers to that.
That's really cool.
On a drawing.
So that mantra of make it real also implies like role playing to a certain extent too.
Imagine yourself using this on
Yep.
the day-to-day at school or
Yep.
after school.
And we tested it. There were kids in the
Hair salon.
hair salon next door. So we're like, hey, we have some desks. Can you test them out? And we had a girl upstairs, Jordan.
cute.
And we tested it out with her too.
Then the other aspect of collaboration, which I think is pretty unique for what we do at Tiny WPA, is everyone, I think, generally thinks about agency coming from those big D design decisions. What does it look like, right? How does it feel?
What color is it? Yeah, things like that.
We've come to find that people find agency and empowerment and ownership across a much broader spectrum of engagement in the making of something. And so, you know, some people had a pretty heavy hand in the design of those stools and the desks, but other people ended up jumping in and designed the whole system for making.
Gotcha.
And that evolved too over time.
That's cool.
So
Yeah.
they were actually, the team designed a factory. They
Wow.
made tools to make these things.
So for instance, like the chairs, they realized, okay, we have hundreds of requests. How are we going to make it faster?
Yeah.
And they designed a lazy Susan for the chair so they could spin it around and put screws in faster. And I was like, great, this is
That's
awesome.
amazing. It's a good segue into our table. I'm really
Yes.
excited to talk about the table that you guys made for us. It's so beautiful. It's so complementary to the other elements in that suite. It's in suite 203. I would love to hear more about how the table came to be and how you approached it, because it was such a different, like a commercial project or something that we're hoping to sell through the space. Tell me more about that.
We really saw it as a project that would allow us to strengthen our whole team. For our day-to-day staff that are here, not everyone knows how to use SketchUp, and not everyone at that time had gone through some of our rapid prototyping techniques because there were some new members on the team
Or had a formal design background.
or had a formal design background.
Some did have a formal design background?
Some did and some
cool.
didn't.
Oh, very cool. I love that mix.
Yep. During one of the digital prototyping sessions, I mean, you would see like Sky, who does not have a college degree or, you know, does not have any design background, but has been fabricating with us for years, sitting next to Anshika, who has done contract furniture for years, them, you know, working on SketchUp simultaneously.
And probably learning things from each other
Absolutely.
with what they know and what they don't know.
Seeing
Yeah.
things differently, not being locked into seeing you know, something the same way. The styles that you know, fortunately, unfortunately, as designers, we get latched onto,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
You know, it was really exciting to see that level of collaboration there, but also just, you know, some really practical things, like there are a whole bunch of people who know SketchUp in a different way now, right?
And the other thing that I think was of interest was like working directly with you, because oftentimes we're working with community organizations
Yeah.
or city agencies or residents, but rarely are we working with a designer
Yeah.
on a project that we can be a part of. Like it's a larger project. Like it's not just the one table, it's like the one table that's part of a bigger picture. And I felt like they really embraced that aspect
That's so
of it.
cool. That's great to hear. I was thinking throughout this conversation, I've been thinking a lot about how in what you do, naivete in design and naivete in like an approach to designing things is probably an asset, because I think sometimes as designers we get very stuck in like what we like, what we don't like, what we think is right, what we think is wrong. And a lot of these people are coming to it with none of that, none of those predispositions. They're just like, I'm interested in what you're doing, but I have no idea what you're doing, maybe even. Do you feel like that's maybe part of it, is what they don't know is an asset to how they approach working with you?
That's a key thing when you're assembling a team, is bringing that naivete and that open-mindedness to the table.
Yep.
They have an idea. They may
Yeah.
not call it design.
For sure.
But they have an idea.
Yeah.
But again, like we really work with that idea and have a conversation, and then the word maybe design comes into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone is interested in what that is and how it's made and how it comes together and how it feels. but they may not call it design.
Definitely. I relate to that because when I was younger, I wanted to be a designer, and I would tell friends that, and they're like, what does that mean? Even my dad was like, what are you going to school for? I think my dad thought I was going to be like in Central Park sketching all day or something. Like, he was not really putting together what I did. So I relate to I grew up in South Philly, and no one was a designer in South Philly. So I felt like an outsider. Now design is everywhere. I'm always thinking like everything you look at every day is designs, and I love hearing that.
I joke with my son, but not joking, that when a toy breaks, I'm like, it's not designed very well. So now he says it.
He's like, you got to get me better toys, Mom.
Absolutely.
Well, the last thing I want to touch on before we leave is your motto, small, what does it tell me? I'm blanking on it. Small
scale,
huge impact. Sorry, I flubbed that. The show is called Small Enough. At YOWIE, we always talk about how we want to remain small but be impactful. I think there's a through line here. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, I think on one hand, just like building off the conversation we were just having, you know, there are people who worked on your table, right, who just had a role in the finishing. Mm-hmm. And that was enough, right? Like, they didn't have time to be more involved.
Or just, instead of doing a huge public space, a bench. You know, we already discussed the importance of benches.
Yes.
Small things, a bench.
All those little things really add up, you know?
My last question is a personal one. I am not handy at all. If you hand me a hammer, I'll probably drop it on my foot. How does someone become more handy? How do I become a building hero? What do I do?
Take our training program. Like, we offer this free training program twice a year.
How long is it?
8 weeks.
Okay.
You meet twice a week for 8 weeks.
I can commit
It is
to
a
that.
commitment.
Okay.
But once you start, you're like, I don't want this to end. This is amazing.
Sure.
I personally did the training program.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's all skill levels.
Very
so you have
cool.
people who are like, I have no clue what I'm doing. And then you have these like handymen who think that they're handy, but they're not.
Yeah, totally.
And everyone is collaboratively working together.
Very cool.
And you quickly learn how to use the tools and gain confidence in using the tools. I think that's also it.
I think I'm too nervous, and then I just start messing up.
You just have to take the training program.
Okay, I'll come back and do that.
But we tackle that head on from the beginning.
Yep.
You know, it is not like your shop class in high school.
No. It's all ages, 14 and up. So then again, that changes the dynamics.
That's cool, yeah.
Yes.
I took a ceramics class at the beginning of YOWIE, or residency, and it was one of the most humbling things I've ever done. I cried the first 3 days. I would just be like, I'm going for a walk, and I was just in the woods crying alone.
Well,
and he's like, why did I sign up for this?
We hope people are not crying.
I'm a double Cancer, so it's probably just me. But it was great. And then I learned how to communicate better with the artists. I learned the process of making ceramics. And I just have a much deeper appreciation for it. And then I could also bring that back to my teams and say, when someone asks you, why is this mug $24? You can explain to them it's a 5-step process, and it's chemicals, and the cost of clay. Yeah, exactly. So it was definitely worth it. So I think I have to come back and become a building hero.
We'd love to have you do
that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your time. This was such a great conversation. I'm super inspired. Awesome. Well, I think that's it, right? I think we got it.
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
And just there is a quote over here, Alex, that I saw while I'm sitting here that I've been snooping over here a little bit. But this quote, I love this quote.
We don't hire people to make coats. We make coats to hire people. The empowerment plan in Detroit. This is from a friend of ours in Detroit, but it sits on my desk because it's a reminder of what we do actually every day. We don't hire people to make tables for YOWIE or benches for a community. We are really making those things to make people. And not everyone wants to be a designer, but everyone loves to build. And in that building, people find confidence and joy and connection with one another and power.
So cool. All right, you're gonna make us all cry in the last few minutes, Alex. All right, that's a wrap. Another great conversation. I love chatting with Alex and Renee. It's so awesome when we're able to just share a little bit of our process, and so much of what they said stuck with me. Like the idea that Philadelphia could be a great incubator for their brand, for what they're doing and for what I'm doing. And this idea that it would give us a little space to breathe, make mistakes, maybe even fail, but not have it take us completely down. The idea that everyone's input counts and how when you ask people if they want to be involved or what they think, it can build trust and lead to more community engagement. That's something that's really important to me, especially with our new space and a new neighborhood. I love that they don't actually draw anything. They just start making live models of what they're making. I feel like there's this idea in design that you have to have a fully formed idea sketched out before you can actually make a prototype. So I love that they're doing the opposite and just making something that they can stand on and test. It's really beautiful. So I'm gonna be thinking about this conversation for a while, but for now I do have to get back to work. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.